All right, so we're here with my lovely friend Paula, and Paula is going to present to us her healing modality, part of the Healing Modality Chronicles, and she's a transformational self empowerment, self love empowerment coach. And we're going to have that conversation around emotion, trauma, how she got to where she's at, what she trained with, and all of this juicy, lovely conversation around her journey. Hello, Paula.
Hi,
Welcome.
Nadege, and thank you for inviting me on to chat with you. I know, obviously, when we've been chatting as well, there's a lot of synergy between, where we both come from with our healing modalities and, what resonates for us. So it's exciting to talk more about it.
Absolutely. So, how
Yeah.
did this all start with you? Because obviously, our journey has a massive impact on who we become within that field.
Yes. Yeah, so I actually had a long-term career as a lingerie designer, which obviously,
Lingerie.
yes, so obviously completely different
Yes.
from the holistic side. However, so very interlinked with my journey, my experiences, what I was battling with, what I needed to overcome. And although I did go into the lingerie industry straight from uni, but I did actually start my spiritual journey from my 20s. But it was only since just before the first lockdown, actually in 2020, that I decided to come away from the industry for good. And that was when I went on the deeper journey of healing, because the last job that I had really magnified all of my struggles very loudly in my face. So it was time really to actually do that deeper work. And then luckily through the lockdown period was when I came across the I Love You Me that I trained in, which really got me to the root of many of my struggles, which really did stem from childhood trauma.
Yes.
And I know we've talked a lot, haven't we, about trauma. And even for me, I've done trauma informed courses as well. And I used to have that in my title.
Yes.
But actually then that can get quite long. But also I had people say to me, be careful putting trauma informed, self-love coach
Yes.
there, because a lot of people don't relate to having experienced trauma. And I think that's the thing. There is a lot of stigma around the word trauma and what it means to have trauma, because a lot of people think that it only applies to you if you've had what we, I guess, would deem as quite catastrophic trauma. Maybe we were sexually abused, or, people that maybe have had really serious accidents, or people that have gone to war, and you don't realize just all of the things that can contribute to you having trauma and holding trauma in the body. And really, trauma is any situation where or the brain's ability to cope, you're completely overwhelmed by your experience. You're not able to process it. You shut down. And so then all of those feelings and emotions that you're experiencing in that moment are still held in the body because you haven't been able to process it. And your nervous system is still in that survival mode as well, having not been able to process it. And depending on when you experience the trauma, So if it is childhood trauma, and maybe your parents, you know, haven't got it within themselves because they also have got their, or, you know, their unresolved trauma, and that emotional maturity isn't there. So they're not necessarily able to help you with, you know, the trauma or what you're feeling. And, you know, again, there's the different levels that you may have experienced that trauma. For me, you know, it was things I was hearing and experiencing that on one conscious level I was aware it affected me because I used to wake up screaming, but actually as I went through adult life didn't realize how much that had affected my body, how I was feeling, and how that knock-on effect was affecting, you know, all of my experiences as you go through life, because the universe is a mirror to us, showing us where we need that deeper healing. What it is that we need to go in and look at. And I think so many of us, either like with me actually, you know, through my spiritual journey, I knew on one level that the answers are within, but I used to get frustrated because I couldn't connect. And I think we don't realise as well that when we experience trauma, there can be, which, you know, happened to me as I realised going through the healing in a deeper way in the last 3 years, when we experience trauma and we are overwhelmed and we can't cope, there can also be those little parts of you that check out of the body. You know, and part of that healing is calling those parts back home to you. And certainly that's what, you know, had happened to the little ages of me. They were up in the, the stars, you know, and quite happily playing up there. So, you know, it's not, our bodies sometimes, they're not a safe environment for us to be in. And that's where a lot of that disconnection can come from.
That's a very important word, I think. Disconnection. Because what happens is that we adapt, creating some coping mechanism where we very often shut off, repress, suppress these emotions that were not felt. And they are suppressed and lodged in a subconscious mind. And consciously we don't know about them. So how have you found, you know, getting in touch with these, shall we call them the wounded part, the disconnected part, all these parts of us which are out there floating, waiting to be recognized? Don't know what wording I love to say, honored and celebrated even, which is taking it to a deep level. How can we do this work, and how do you do this work with your clients?
And I think, you know, divine timing is everything as well, because when I started my spiritual journey in my 20s, I started going for crystal therapy. And I loved it. There was also obviously that deeper remembrance of crystals, and obviously all the times that we've worked with crystals in other lives. But as lovely as that was, you know, it was, and I used to go for meditation, as lovely as it was also often quite painful, because I already wasn't in my body. So when I would go for those sessions, I would go off somewhere very beautiful. I didn't know where I had gone, but I knew wherever it was, you know, it was beautiful and it felt like home. So then when I had to come back into the body, I didn't want to come back into the body. So, you know, that at the time for me helped me on one level, but it didn't get to the root of what really needed to be addressed. So when I came across, because, you know, I think we are always guided to, you know, because there are a lot of modalities out there, and we are all different as well. So what may work for one may not work for another. But for me, this self-love coaching with the I Love You Me method was what really helped me to connect. Because I think, we hear of those words, don't we? The shadow work, going through dark night of the soul, which does sound scary. And for a lot of people, they don't want to go there because, it's not for the faint-hearted. Feeling is healing, but a lot of the time we don't want to have to feel because, maybe as children we were shut down from our emotions. We weren't allowed to feel, or if we tried to express emotions, maybe we were shamed, so we shut them down. And then we grow up, we go into a society where, the world is full of distractions. And we know that we're all very good at distracting ourselves from feeling, whether that is, alcohol, drugs, shopping, Netflix, you name it, whatever it is.
Workaholic.
Yeah, workaholic. Yeah. We do all these things that actually distract us from taking a moment to feel and acknowledge what we're feeling. So with the sessions that I hold for people, which is what was so important for me, was really being able to connect in with the body, and I hold space for people to, I can't do it for you.
Yes.
I'm holding space to allow you to be able to connect into the body, because, I'm a great believer that we can't think our way out of it. When we experience these things, when we experience trauma, it's held in the body. It's, and that's what we have to go in and feel and acknowledge. And, for me, with the I Love You Me process, it is very much about not forcing a label on who is it that's feeling whatever emotion you might be feeling, anger, grief, terror, fear, whatever it is. But it's, getting people to connect in to, and usually I start off by taking people on a journey down through the body. So that you can connect in to, so often obviously there is a lot in the throat, because so often we have not been able to voice how we're really feeling. So as we go down through the body, I'm kind of inviting then people to feel into what is it that you're feeling. And then if, let's say, as we're journeying down the body, you are in the throat, if you're feeling any constriction there or unspoken words, feeling into, do you get a sense of who's really feeling that? Because, obviously, as I say, life is a mirror. Everything is a mirror in our external experiences. So when we get triggered by whatever it might be, a person, a situation, we think it is our adult self that's being triggered and bringing up all of these emotions, whatever that might be, anger, sadness, frustration. But actually it is a deeper part of us that's being triggered. So it's feeling into, okay, well, do you get a sense of an age? And, the more we go through it as well, it can be past life you that comes up that needs clearing as well, because as we've discussed, there's so many layers. But the beauty of it for me is, and I'm not knocking any other modality, but what worked for me was being able to actually really sense that person, whether that is a little age of you, a child of you, or whether it's a past life you, because it may seem like it's in the past, but it's not in the past, because everything is happening in the now, and it's still how you're feeling is still happening there in your body in the now moment. So it's about really being able to, particularly when it's the little me's, that maybe didn't get the love that they needed. They didn't get their needs met. And, you know, in all of this, there's no blame. You know, our parents do the best that they can.
Absolutely.
With their level of awareness, emotional maturity, with their unresolved trauma. So it's not about blame, but it's about, you know, really being able to acknowledge and validate yourself.
Yes.
And bring in forgiveness. And sometimes that is also about being able to come to that realization that when are we going to stop waiting for mum, dad, or whoever it might be to come and tell us that they love us, or they see us, you know, they understand, or whatever it might be. So the important thing about the self-love coaching is it's about you reparenting yourself and being able to give to yourself what it is that you didn't get, that you needed in that moment, that maybe you felt abandoned or terrified. You know, I know we talked about this as well. You know, one of the big things about, you know, spirituality is lovely. Connecting with your guides and being up there is lovely, but the whole point is we're here to experience being a human. So we are also here to feel all of those range of emotions.
Yes.
You know, including the anger, the feistiness, because as we were saying, sometimes actually that's important. When you need to put the boundaries in place to say, actually, no, I'm not allowing this. Because part of, you know, self-love has so many meanings, but it's also about putting those boundaries in place, knowing when you need to say no, knowing it's okay to say no.
Yes.
And if that doesn't, you know, suit somebody else's agenda that maybe has been used to you being a people pleaser and always saying yes, well, you know, again, that's for them to deal with their reaction to that. Because self-love is always about, you know, what do you need, honouring your own needs. And when you feel these triggers coming up in a, you know, any moment, is just really being able to, you know, put your hand on your heart and say, you know, hello me. I see you, I feel you, I hear you, and don't be afraid to acknowledge those parts of you so that you can give voice to them. To say, you know, and if you get that sense of, okay, today, you know, I am feeling angry, so, you know, where is angry me in the body? You know, go in and let her express her anger, because we shouldn't be shamed for feeling that full spectrum of emotions. That's what we're here to be able to experience. And the more that we're not afraid of them, the more we can allow, the more we can observe ourselves and the patterns, you know, because this is the other thing about, obviously, trauma. You know, we don't realise just how much it affects the patterns in our life, the choices we make, the relationships that we might, you know, attract.
Absolutely.
Because of what we've experienced and where we, you know, maybe don't feel lovable, don't feel good enough, worthy, you know, we doubt ourselves. You know, a lot of the time as well, where maybe we weren't allowed to express all of our emotions, we can also doubt our own intuition. You know, so we ignore our gut instinct as well when we go out in the world and, you know, make choices that maybe were not healthy choices or the right choices for us. But again, we've learned to suppress and ignore what we're really feeling. So it, you know, it has such a huge impact. And I think if people could be, you know, even if people don't like the word trauma, you know, just think, well, you know, the shit that's happened to us.
Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah.
Because, you know, never underestimate. You think, you know, there's that saying, isn't there? time is a healer.
Yeah.
But actually, time isn't really a healer, because until you go in and allow yourself to shine the light on the parts of you that are in pain, you know, you might have shoved them down a bit lower through time. So maybe the charge isn't there, or the pain isn't there in such a heightened way. But, you know, time isn't really a healer. Feeling is healing.
I agree so much.
So, yeah.
And what we see is that, especially when we start working with people, you see lots of various different people, some super successful people, some who you would qualify as super good looking, blah, blah, blah. And you realize that we're all on the same boat. We have different ways of manifesting it, but we all, at some point, feel a certain level of not being safe, not being good enough, or afraid of being loved. And mostly it's very difficult to love the whole of who we are, including these parts which society has formatted us into really pushing them away, suppressing them. So how do you actually, with a client in a session, how do you get in touch and how do you heal these parts?
It is by being able to go in and give them voice, you know, allow them to say what it was that they weren't able to say, you know, whether that is, you know, calling in the energy of a person that's caused you the pain, so that you can then be able to, you know, express how you feel. And then it's bringing in that forgiveness and bringing in the love to that part of you and helping them to feel safe, because you know that you've got them. And, you know, it does take practice, as we've said as well. It is layers, because, you know, sometimes you can think, you know, it's happened with me. I've done so much on different ages of me, and then another situation might arise and it's, you know, same age might be there again, still feeling vulnerable and needing love and reassurance. So it's also knowing that, you know, you haven't done anything wrong if you're like, oh, well, I thought I'd addressed that age of me. You know, I've had people also in sessions that have said the same thing. You know, I thought I had done some work on that age of me, and yet that age has come through. Because also in, you know, I ask people, have they got an intention for a session? But actually what might come up in the session is something totally different to what you thought might come up, because it's always getting to the root of what needs to be seen and acknowledged in that moment. So it could be a different age, or it could be a past you, because as we know, those patterns or, you know, behaviors, experiences will keep coming through until we can get in and address. And as we know, the big ones are so much of that self-love and acceptance for who we are, because I think, just like you say, it doesn't matter what you perceive about somebody else's perceived success or beauty or whatever it might be. It doesn't mean to say they haven't got those insecurities underneath, that they still, you know, are criticizing themselves, beating themselves up. You know, for me, I used to look in the mirror every day getting ready for work in the morning and say, oh, you're fat, old and ugly, every morning. You know, and you wouldn't say that to a friend. But the irony is as well, and this is where self-awareness is so important, because we can be busy thinking, oh, they're being a bit unkind to me. But actually, as with me, I was like, how horrible am I being to myself every day? you know, and yet I'm attracting relationships, situations where people, you know, are picking up my perceived flaws.
Yes.
And I'm feeling bad about that. But actually, I'm not making myself accountable for how awful I'm being to myself every day. So that was when I did the I Love You Me practitioner training. That was one of the biggest sort of awarenesses, if you like, which should be so obvious. But it isn't when, you know, these patterns become like brushing your teeth.
Yes.
It's so ingrained, you don't even realise because it's just something you naturally do.
Yeah.
So, you know, self-awareness is so important for, you know, we talked about that empowerment, didn't we, of, you know, we do get stuck in the patterns of, you did this to me and now I'm feeling this or whatever. And it's not condoning what anyone may or may not have done to you, but you're the one that has the power to take that control back, to say, no, I am in charge of choosing how I want to feel. You know, I have the power to say, do I want to hold on to this feeling or grudge or resentment that is going to hold me back because I'm stuck in that? Or do I want to say, well, okay, this happened to me, and please forgive me that you felt all of these things, but bringing in that love, so that you know that, and the forgiveness for, you know, maybe understanding that what that other person is also going through and what trauma they've experienced that they're then projecting onto you. And it only affects us when there's things that we still need to heal on a deeper level within ourselves.
Yeah, so in my terminology, I use like many others, the term of the lens, you know, and the lens of the wounded aspects of us is very close, it's very focused on the problem. And the work that you're talking about is really taking us back to a much bigger picture, which again, so is the zooming out and understanding. And there's two things you said. The first one is, you know, you use the term vulnerability, which is so important. And the second one, becoming aware and really reminding ourselves that 95% of our brain is subconscious. So a lot of people don't realize, and including ourselves, that we've built these adaptation coping mechanisms, and if we to protect ourselves, and therefore that kind of protects us from the negative, what is hurtful, but we don't realize it numbs us as well from the joy, the play, the love, the freedom. So as soon as you start going into that vulnerability, it takes a lot of courage, because
it does,
you start seeing all the aspects of you. But when you start understanding that we are all on the same boat, living that feeling of separation, finding the way to love ourselves, and the only way is to just exploring these aspects, these parts, and then coming to terms with them. And as we said earlier on, understanding that some parts might still be there. As you mentioned, they come back into our lives and stuff. But at some point, we're not triggered anymore. And maybe if you can explain a little bit, elaborate on this, how this is part of the process of returning to our wholeness.
Because, you know, we are growing all the time. And, you know, those parts of us as well that hold us back, you know, they think that they're protecting you, because it's like, oh no, we don't want to do that, do we? Because look what happened last time.
Yes.
When you might have stood up there and spoke, and then you were laughed at, you were ridiculed, and you felt all that shame and embarrassment, and so we don't want to go there again. So those parts of us think they are protecting you for the good, but obviously, as we know, it is just because they're not feeling safe. And it's being able to meet the parts and meet the fear. And for me, I met a lot of my little me's through doing the I Love You Me training. But actually then also, even when I was qualified, putting yourself out there as a business, that's a whole new level of growth.
Yeah.
So, so there's a whole deeper level, of layers.
Yes.
Again, around being seen, that's also where some of the past life stuff comes up as well, around that kind of persecution, witch wound.
Absolutely.
So that will really trigger your sense of safety again with the little me's, because it is, it's a journey of constant encouragement and love. That same as if that was their journey through childhood, where they would want that constant encouragement to feel safe and secure, that it's okay to be themselves. But I think so often there's so much judgment. And the thing is, we are all different, and you're never going to be everyone's cup of tea.
Yes.
So the more that you can bring in the self-love and acceptance for yourself, and to know that you're never going to be everyone's cup of tea. We all make judgments every moment, whether it's a good judgment or a bad judgment. We all have our own opinion, but that's just our opinion.
Yes.
So being able to keep doing that work, keep going in and meeting the parts of you, giving them the love, the reassurance, asking yourself all the time, what do I need today, me? So that you can really bring in that level of support for yourself. Because, particularly for me, when I did go through the I Love You Me practitioner training, I did that through the first lockdown. And, I live on my own. So that was a lot. I was still also, I think, processing the leaving the lingerie industry, a lot of what my last job had brought up within me. So it's very easy to feel very alone, and maybe to feel unsupported. But actually, again, in that moment, it is about, well, not even just giving ourselves to know we're so much more powerful than we realize, and keep bringing in that love, but also even to, yes, of course, we do have the people that we know are there to support us in the physical, but also there is so much support from all of our guides and our family of light as well. And I think we don't call on them enough, for their support, because they're there to help us. But I think it's, we do, when we're still unsure of ourselves, we're still doubting ourselves, we can still just keep secretly seeking that validation and approval elsewhere.
Oh, yeah.
And I know I did that going into, even when I was in the industry, I used to work myself into the ground, because that was a bit of a belief as well, that you have to work hard.
Mm-hmm.
But also I could tell that there was, when I look back now, that was still ways of me trying to seek validation and to feel good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I shared recently on my social media even, this little opportunity that I'm doing at the moment with a family, completely different, but where that old patterning was coming up of me going over and beyond what was expected, you know, but very quickly I was able to observe it. And, you know, that is what is great about the self-awareness journey, because very easily I could have gone back down a road of getting myself into a state, feeling very stressed and burnt out, which is what I so often did when I was in the lingerie industry. So it's bringing in that awareness of just seeing where these little patterns or beliefs are still in there, the more that we, you know, go into new situations for that deeper growth. But I think it's the most important thing you can do for yourself is to just keep acknowledging exactly how you feel. And it's not to stay in the emotion and be stuck in it, but just to try and push it down and pretend that we're not really feeling that.
Mm-hmm. Which is what society has taught us to do.
Yeah.
Again, you're taking the zooming out.
Yeah.
And acknowledging, I think what the commonality with all these healing modalities is that having the courage to kind of realize that there might be a blessing in disguise, and finding the gift. And maybe the gift is courage and resilience.
Yes.
Which is what Brené Brown talks about, you know, the courage and resilience to go deep within yourself and know that there is a potential for growth. But taking a leap of faith like you've done takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, it does. But, you know, as much as, because again, we have all the planetary things that go on as well, you know, that we know affect us and bring things up even more that need to be seen. But equally, you know, when we're ready, even though it might seem hard, and, you know, I know we spoke about this, that it's getting quicker as well. So it's, if you are committed then to want to do this inner work, it feels like a constant onslaught. So it's even more important to keep being the observer of it.
Absolutely.
And not get pulled down, but also to keep doing the things that you know are going to help you. You know, nature for me is so healing, you know, which it is. Obviously for everyone, just really getting out and connecting with nature, getting your feet on the ground, really helping to anchor you back in the body, drinking lots of water, you know, eating nourishing foods. I mean, I do have a sweet tooth, but I'm very aware also that I really need to, you know, cut down on the sugar, because it's very easy for me. I know I go for the chocolate bars when I'm feeling tired, but it's being able to really support your body, your nervous system through what you're going through. You know, put on some music that you like, you know, dance, movement, if you don't like exercise as such, you know, but put on some music that you like, that you'll move the body, because that moves the energy through as well and can just help you to move through what you're feeling. But don't be afraid to feel it, because it never fully goes away.
Exactly. And what about the somatization, feeling symptoms in the body? We're addressing a lot of, you know, serious stuff like cancer on this channel, but other diseases or the somatic manifestation of a deeper problem. So what's your view, or would you stand with that?
Well, I mean, again, I agree, and I know it can be a bit controversial, but I think, you know, a lot of the autoimmune diseases, again, is part of where, you know, we haven't been in our bodies. We haven't been connected with our bodies, where we, you know, have serious trauma or any trauma. You know, even a lot of stomach issues, again, you know, Crohn's disease, things like that, where, you know, where are you not processing what is held in your body? So I think definitely, you know, I know it is a difficult subject, because I think as well, you know, some people, and that can be hard for them to just acknowledge as well, that they don't want to take responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, I know people that have certain conditions in the body. I also know they've got a lot of trauma they don't want to look at. But equally, if people are not ready, that's their journey, you know, and as frustrating as it might be if you're, you know, a practitioner that thinks, oh, I could help you with this, but equally, who are we to say what somebody else's journey is? But definitely, I think there is the huge correlation, why wouldn't there be, of, you know, what we're have experienced emotionally, what's still held in the body that we're not addressing. It's going to come out in one way or another.
Yes. I think you brought up a good point, because you're diagnosed with something serious like cancer. And then, you know, practitioner like us would say, hey, I'm here. I would love to work on do some inner work with you and stuff. And you're in a state of survival, in a state of crisis. And there might be an initial feeling of like, oh, what? You're telling me it's my fault. You're telling me I've got something to do with the manifestation of this symptom. I've called it symptom. This is a little bit controversial, as you would say, to call it a symptom. But the initial guilt, the initial shame, and it's not at all what practitioners like us want to convey. On the other hand, we're like, hey, you know, bring in the whole picture. Start to look within yourself and understand that maybe within there are aspects that you haven't been able to love. Maybe you need to go deeper into that vulnerability, let go of some of the protection, the adaptation, and feel the whole of you. I know that with you, I got in touch with what I called my Darth Vader archetype, and it was strong. The dark force. Oh my God. But it was such an inner realization after all the work I've done, as well as you know, and I just realized that, I mean, there's some levels of healing which couldn't have happened before really having the courage to go into that. And that's the resilience, that's the courage. Jumping.
It is.
Deep diving.
But it is so, you know, if only, and I know we do joke saying ignorance is bliss sometimes when you're in it, but it's, you know, it's not, because if I look back on, you know, the me prior to leaving the lingerie industry. Well, I think there's people that knew me that also, they knew I still was into the spiritual side, which are not surprised, you know, what I'm doing now. And maybe for some people, they would be surprised to say that I had all these struggles, you know, with myself, not loving myself, not accepting myself, you know, even, you know, what I'm doing now when having this interview with you, you know, or, you know, going live on Instagram and things like that. I would never have been able to do that. Because I just didn't have the confidence. I hate, you know, the irony of, I never felt seen and heard, but then I didn't want to be seen and heard either. You know, because of all of the fears and insecurities and judgments, you know, that also came with that. but just quickly going back to the lingerie industry. So, you know, I was growing up in a household where, you know, very much dieting, you know, was a big thing, and, you know, discussion of
body image,
how much you weigh, what are you eating. And so, you know, that was a big part of why as well I, you know, was always never very complimentary or accepting of my body or how I looked, and super critical. And then I go into, you know, an industry where it couldn't be more focused on the body.
Yes.
And, you know, when I was going into that in the 90s, you know, as well, it was still very much stick thing models. You know, I mean, we used to go to Paris and Lyon twice a year to these lingerie shows, and, you know, a lot of those models were, you know, very, very thin. And so that perpetuates,
of course,
also, what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable, and how you feel about your own body. And I think for a lot of us, we are so super critical.
Especially women.
Women, and women about other women as well, you know. And okay, over the years, they started putting more curvy women, you know, in the lingerie. But even for me, I realise there's still an element of me that's like, well, partly always that authentic, because they're only doing that out of pressure, but also a part of me that's still judging. So it's like, okay, so what part of me is still not fully accepting, you know, myself? So it's, you know, but it's going into an industry as well where you are to a degree empowering women again to wear beautiful lingerie. And obviously, what a big difference, you know, beautiful lingerie and a proper fitting bra can make. But still, underneath all that, the insecurities are buried so much deeper.
Absolutely.
Than the beautiful lingerie. So it was very, you know, nothing, although something might seem like, oh, lingerie designer, spiritual, you know, energy healer, or, you know, can seem so different, but actually the journey, the lessons, and the experience, and obviously what I was trying to heal within myself, the journey couldn't have been more perfect, really.
And as you heal yourself, you basically become a new template for everybody to kind of learn from as well. So one last question about the session. Some people might be wondering, well, you know, how can it be, or is it possible to heal the baby? Since the baby didn't really have the capacity to voice anything. How can it be done?
And again, you know, everything actually, as we know, is energy. And so even, you know, because a lot of our trauma also starts in the womb before we've even come out. As we know. But it's still possible to connect in with baby you in the womb, or newborn baby you, and still be able to ask, you know, on a direct soul level, what is it that they're feeling, so that you can fully acknowledge how terrified or scared or abandoned, alone that they may have felt. And still, they can still speak from a soul level, even though in our humanness, it's like, well, a baby can't talk, and if you're in the womb, you can't talk. But yes, you can.
So that's the feeling, really going within the feeling. And allowing our sensing.
Sensing and really trusting. Actually, you know, because you might be surprised, you're like, actually, I'm feeling a lot of anger. You know, and it's like, well, trust that, if that's what is there.
And That's why I've actually said in some of the videos that I think that
Yeah.
when somebody goes through a massive crisis, and especially a disease like cancer or
Yeah.
any other thing,
Yeah.
doing some work, inner work,
Yeah.
led by a practitioner,
Yes.
allows you to really have the capacity to fully go into yourself,
Yeah.
while being held in a space
Yes.
of complete safety and protection.
Yeah.
And there you can really open up.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I realise more and more, because I have met myself so deeply,
Yeah.
I'm now really starting to appreciate the sacredness of the space I hold for people.
Oh, yes.
That really allows them to meet themselves at that level.
Of course.
Yeah.
And if, as a practitioner, you haven't gone that deep, you cannot take people there.
No. Or
So,
you would find yourself getting triggered as
exactly.
well because you
Yes.
haven't met
Yes.
yourself. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Only when you meet yourself.
Yeah.
Amazing. So you spoke about your social media. Could you tell us where people can find you?
Yes. So my business name is Sambanda, and Sambanda in Sanskrit means relationship. So obviously it is my passion to help people to deepen that relationship with themselves, hence where the business name comes from. So on social media, I am at Sambanda Healing. Sambanda had gone, so I'm at Sambanda Healing, but my website is sambanda.co.uk, where I've got all my services on there. I've also got a self-paced program where I really do take people on a deep journey of everything really that has, helped me as well to really go in and meet myself. So there's a lot of the principles of that connection with the I Love You Me process, but lots about trauma and the little me, identities, mirrors, projections, womb healing, lots of juicy stuff in there through
that people can do on their own, in their own time.
Yeah, it used to be, when I first launched it, it was a 3-month program.
Yes.
And I had one-to-ones and weekly calls, but actually, depending how much time people have, or physically how much time, or even how much healing work they've already done, people were needing to go through at different pace quite naturally.
Yes.
And some people needed a lot longer than 3 months because there is a lot of content that I've put in there.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be a lot easier if I just do it as a self-paced program. Also to make it more affordable that way for people as well. Then there's no pressure.
Yes.
They can do it in their own time, and then if they want to have the one-to-one sessions, which I do recommend just to help support you through it, but then people can book that when they're ready as well. So
and your Facebook is
at Sambanda Healing as well.
At Sambanda Healing.
Yeah.
Right. Is there anything you'd like to end with?
Well, actually, no, one thing I will say, something simple. Every day that you get up and you're getting ready in the morning, just look in the mirror, look at yourself in the eyes with compassion and say, I love you, me. I love you, all parts of me. And breathe in the words, and then just notice how easy it is to say those words. Or does it feel uncomfortable? Do you feel like, oh no, actually that's not true? And use it as an invitation to then maybe just feel into what you might be feeling in the body when you say those words.
So accepting the fact that it might not be true.
Yes.
Don't
ignore it.
Yeah.
If you feel like it's not true, then great, there's some juice there to go into of, okay, what part of me in the body right now doesn't believe that to be true?
And can I still honor that part?
Yeah. Yeah.
And can I still love the part that is not
Yes.
feeling that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is where, you know, if you were getting that reaction of, oh no, that's not true, you know, you could breathe into your body. Okay, where am I feeling that in my body?
Yeah.
You know, maybe it's in the heart, the solar plexus, and then feel into, okay, do I get a sense of, is there an age of me that's not feeling loved?
Yeah.
You know, and then as you feel into that, you know, as your adult self, then really feel like you're that loving, wise adult now that's going to go and give love to the part of you that actually doesn't believe that to be true.
Yeah.
She's not feeling loved, or he's not feeling loved, so that you can go and give them what they need.
Yeah. And obviously, everything we've spoken about is about trauma. For severe trauma, you really need to be doing that work with a professional.
Yeah, I think
trained practitioner.
Yes, I think until you know, because it can feel overwhelming. And well, you know, again, even the varying degrees of trauma you might have, but just we can be, if we're afraid, if there's something in there, even if we've built it up to be more scary than what it actually might be if we go in and meet it, you know, we can still, doing it on our own, we can still avoid it.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
You know,
absolutely.
there can be an aspect of us that can hide from not wanting us to go in, and then we can't do it on our own, and we'll think, oh, well, never mind, and I'll just go and distract myself with something else. So, you know, whether it's, yes, obviously with serious trauma, you do want to have somebody that can really hold that space for you and be there for whatever reaction you might have. Because again, you know, as we're purging and clearing a lot of this trauma out of our body, we can have different experiences. Some people can be physically sick. You know, you can have an upset tummy as it's clearing through the body. You know, there's various ways that, or even in the session, you know, I have a friend actually that always, when things are clearing through her, she physically sometimes needs to be sick.
Okay, yeah.
You know, and that's, you know, I have to say that's not common with the people I see, but just, you know, not to be scared if you think, oh my goodness, this is happening. Don't be afraid of it. You know, almost then think, oh, how wonderful, my body is able to release this out of the body. But yeah, I think definitely it's so important to have someone to hold the space for you in the beginning, just to allow you to be able to meet those parts that really need to be met. So
thank you so much. That is really, really, really empowering. So finding some empowerment in the midst of these crisis moment where you feel so disempowered. And then you realize that, you know, it is what happens here and in your heart which can change everything.
It is. And it's knowing that you have the power to change it now. Because, you know, we're very good at thinking, aren't we? You know, if I just change that job or move that location or change that relationship, that then it's going to be fine. But it's not if that same issue,
pattern,
you know, emotion is still there. If you still feel unworthy, it doesn't matter where you go, you're still always going to feel unworthy until you go in and meet unworthy you.
Changing the outside, the outer will have no effect on the inner.
No.
As long as the inner is not met with love,
Yeah.
as you said,
Yeah.
Wow. So beautiful.
And so empowering, like you say, because, you know, once we have that self-realization, it's like, wow, I don't need anyone else to do this for me.
Yes.
You know, I have the power to change whatever has happened to me at whatever stage in my life. It's never too late to go in and do the work, you know, and to make the changes. It's never too late.
And I think that if we're meant to change, life will send us a crisis, small or big, or a few of them, until we actually do.
Yeah, and we are being, you know, even for me, I've had the tests of where, you know, oh yes, I've done a lot of work on that. And then the universe will be like, right, let's bring in this situation and just test that theory. And it's like, okay, maybe a bit more to be done there, you know. So, yeah.
But it takes so much humility and openness to be there and have the capacity to just go with it. And that's where real courage and resilience is.
Yeah. And the more that you can, just remove yourself a bit from it. And, you know, the moments you are, I mean, of course, when you're thick in it, it might be hard to find the humour.
Of course.
But when you're maybe a little bit moving through it, if you can find the humour in the situation, you know, it can help a lot to just really see the incredible journey that it is.
And disentangle you from the gravity of the whole situation.
Yeah.
Even to the point of a cancer experience like I went through.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, looking back at it, I can see the growth, the transformation, the deep healing that it brought. And still, you know, not everything is healed, but so that's really the spirit. That's the frame, or the mind frame, or the frame of mind to have is helps tremendously. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I know we could talk about this all day.
So we'll do another one with the light language.
Yes. Yeah.
So
another very exciting subject.
So we'll just finish with to be continued ...
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.